Good day everybody, this is the Ecclesiarch here, back with some more Horus Heresy Legions card reveals, and today we shall be covering the Iron Warriors. And just like with every other factions of the rework, they have a reworked a new ability, which is called attrition. So attrition basically is what? This is an effect that will trigger whenever a friendly unit uses an activated ability. So whenever a unit uses the ability that either costs energy or maybe costs 0 energy but will cost them the turn. Now this, of course, is a unit, which means this will also work on warlords. So if the warlord, for example, triggers a siege ability, let's say like that, this will also activate these abilities. Now keep in mind that this has to be done by the unit itself. So for example, using stuff like the Dodecathon Adept or Attrition Warfare is not going to trigger it. The unit itself has to use its turn to trigger the ability for this to happen. And of course there are going to be some units that have activated abilities plus attrition as well. So without further ado, let's get into the first card. And the first card that we have here is the Iron Strike Rapier, which is 2 energy 1/4 with attrition, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. Now honestly speaking, this I don't really like this when I look at it from at the beginning, like on paper, but the success of this card is really going to depend on a couple of things, because I haven't seen the warlords yet, and if there are some warlords that have, for example, 0 cost siege abilities, that might be pretty good, because you drop a 2 energy 1/4 and when you activate your ability, it's instantly going to deal 2 damage. Now if every warlord has a high cost siege ability, then this might be a little bit too slow for a game like Horus Heresy Legions. Now of course maybe Iron Warriors also are going to have some ways of reducing the cost of activated abilities, but well, that is something that we have to see down the line. The next unit is the Xinon support squad, which I also do not like. Honestly, I think this is pretty bad, because 4 energy 5/3 stats are terrible. Would have been much better if it were 4 energy 3/5, and attrition is deal 2 damage to the enemy warlord. So once again, this will only be useful if there are 2 like very easy ways to trigger like activated abilities, and they are very cheap. But even then, the stat line I think is horrible. So I gotta say, like, I'm not really a big fan of this card either. Now next we have Pror skar, a 6 energy 6/6 with attrition to give 0 + 2 to all other friendly units, and the active ability that he has is to give +2 to your troops. Now this might be pretty interesting, because this is gonna give a huge buff to everybody, including your warlord, and if it survives, then it's gonna give like an even greater buff. This is basically giving the whole board +2/+2, right? So this might be a little bit interesting. However, once again, the thing it's going to depend on whether or not the warlords are gonna have like easy ways of triggering these abilities. If not, then it might be a little bad, because let's say if you have warlords that have 2 energy triggering ability, then it means that in order to just instantly get value from Pror skar, you have to play it on energy 8, which would not be that effective, but we will see once again down the line. And finally we have a Saran tank, which is Gale of Perdition, and that is a 7 energy 8/6, 2 energy, deal 5 damage to an enemy and 3 to its adjacent units. Yeah, this is also pretty slow, honestly. Like this is like bad stats for its cost, and once again needs to survive a turn to be useful. Now honestly speaking, I do like the new ability attrition. It's pretty good. It could synergize with siege and other things of the Iron Warriors a lot, which is pretty interesting. However, from what I see here now, until I see the other new cards, what I can conclude is that the Iron Warriors are going to suffer from the same problem as which they have always been suffering from, which is basically being a little too slow. Because like, what was the problem with siege, right? You have to play a unit, then you have to activate the ability, and then you have to play the ability, right? 3 turns. Just like here, it seems like it's the same thing. You have to play something, and then you have to wait for the next turn for it to actually give you value. So there's not any instant value. But once again, as I said, it's really going to depend on whether or not the warlords themselves are going to have crazy synergies with these troops. Because, for example, if you have a warlord, as I said, with a 0 cost siege, these units might actually become much better, well, with the exception of the Gale of Perdition, of course. So that is my opinion on the cards. Please comment what you think. Thank you very much, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.